This video is on 30, 60, 90 special right triangles. We're going to be using the equations the long is equal to short times the square root of 3 and the hypotenuse is equal to short times 2 to answer some practice problems. So these are the two equations we want to use. And again, we also need to make sure since the short is in both of our equations, we must find the short leg first. The short leg is always across from the 30 degrees. That's always our first step. So these examples say find the value of the variables. We have right triangles. We have a 60 degree, a 90 degree, therefore this third angle must be 30 degrees. We always want to see if we have our short side first. So we have our 30 degrees here. We need to go opposite the 30 degrees to here. This is our short side. This is our short leg, which we need first. So since we have our short leg, that means that we can find both the long leg and the hypotenuse. Now our long leg is across from the 60 degrees. So if we look at the 60, go opposite the 60, that's our x. So our long leg is actually our x, long, and therefore our y would be our hypotenuse. So we can find both of those values. Using the equations, the long leg is equal to your short times the square root of 3. So our long leg is represented by x. Our short leg is represented by 3. And we're going to multiply by the square root of 3. Well, 3 times square root of 3 is 3 square root of 3. So x will equal to 3 square root of 3. We'll also have the other equation, the hypotenuse is equal to your short times 2. Well, in this case, our hypotenuse is represented by y. Our short is represented by 3. We're going to multiply it by 2, which will give us 6. 3 times 2 is 6, so y is equal to 6. We have both of our values, x and y. As long as we know the equations and as long as we can find the short quickly, we can answer our questions quickly. On this next problem, number 2, we have a 90, a 30 degree, therefore the other one must be 60 degrees. We want to label what we do have. So we have an x, a y, and a 4. We need to know what our 4 is. Our 4, if we go opposite that to the angle, that's our 60 degrees. That means that our 4 is actually our long leg. If the 4 is long, that means that we must find the short leg first. That means we need to go and find that, use that equation. So we want to find our short, which is from the 30 degrees. Opposite that, that's our x. This is our short leg. And then our y would be our hypotenuse. Just labeling out what it is that we need to find. So if we have the long leg, we actually want to use that equation to find the short because both of these equations have short in it. We use what we have. We have the value of long, so we can find the short. We don't have the hypotenuse, so we can't find the short. So we're going to use that long equals short times the square root of 3. So long equals short times the square root of 3. So our long leg is represented by the 4, our short leg is represented by the x, and times the square root of 3. I need to solve for x by dividing by the square root of 3. So we have x is equal to 4 divided by the square root of 3. So again, as always, we can not leave a radical in the denominator, and there's nothing that it can simplify with from the numerator. So this is when we need to rationalize. So I'm going to write that on the side. We want to rationalize this value. So to rationalize this, we want to multiply the top and bottom by the radical in the denominator, which is square root of 3. So 4 times the square root of 3 is equal to 4 square root of 3 over square root of 3 times square root of 3 will just be 3. This will not simplify any further, so x is equal to 4 square root of 3 over 3. that also represents our short leg. So that will help us to find our hypotenuse. Now that we have the short leg, that's the first thing we found. Now that we have the short leg, we can find the hypotenuse by using this equation. So now we can use hypotenuse is equal to your short times 2. Our hypotenuse is y. Our short was x, which we found as 4 squared root 3 over 3. We're going to multiply this by 2. Now when we multiply this by 2, please remember that this is really a 2 over 1. So you're only multiplying the numerator to numerator and denominator to denominator. So when we multiply this, y will equal to 8 square root of 3 over still just 3. And these are our values. As long as you find your short side first, you can find everything. If you're already given your short side, that's always very nice, but you won't always be given your short side. On this next example, again, we're going to label what it is that we do have. We have a 5 square root of 3 right here, which is opposite the 90 degrees. That means that this is your hypotenuse. So we want to find our short and then our long. So the short is opposite the 30 degrees. So we go across it. Our x is our short side. Therefore, our y is our long. Since we have the hypotenuse, we want to use the equation. The hypotenuse is equal to short times 2 because we always want to find our short. So the equation hypotenuse is equal to short times 2. Hypotenuse is 5 square root 3 equals, our short is represented by x, and we multiply it by 2. So we want to divide by 2. So x will equal to 5 square root 3 over 2. And this cannot simplify further, and you do not need to rationalize. So now that we have our short side, we can go and find our long side. Our long is equal to our short times the square root of 3. So our long was y. Our short was x, which we just found, which is 5 square root of 3 over 2. And we multiply it by the square root of 3. And again, this is square root of 3 over 1. So when you get this, you technically have 5 times square root of 3 times square root of 3 is 3, and then over 2 times 1 is 2. So this is 5 times 3 is 15 over 2 will stay as 15 over 2. So y is equal to 15 over 2. These are our values. So in this case, you had to solve for your short using your hypotenuse, so you divide it by 2. They won't always give you nice, clean values, but when they do, it's much easier. But these problems have radicals in them still. They have rationalizing. They have still halves. So there's not always going to be a nice, even number to divide by 2. This next example, so again, we have a 60 degree here, 90, that means we have to have a 30 here. So if we have a 5 square root of 3, which opposite that is a 60, that means that the 5 square root of 3 is your long leg. So we want our short, so 30 degrees opposite that is our x, so this represents our short, and then y would represent our hypotenuse. I'm just labeling that in there. Since we have the long leg, we want to use that equation that the long leg is equal to your short times the square root of 3. Our long leg is that 5 square root of 3 equals, our short is represented by x times the square root of 3. Now in this case, we do want to solve for x. We want to divide by the square root of 3, but you can also, if you also notice that both of these have the square root of 3 attached to them, multiplied to them. So what value of x would make these, the left and the right, be the exact same? The only value that would make the left and the right be the exact same would be 5. You can divide by the square root of 3. You do not have to rationalize in this case because you can simplify the square root of 3 with the square root of 3. So x would actually just equal to 5. So now that we have your x, now that we have our short leg, we can find the hypotenuse. So hypotenuse is equal to your short times 2. The hypotenuse is represented by y. Our short leg was represented by x, which we just found as 5, times 2. 5 times 2 is 10. So our hypotenuse, y value, is equal to 10. This one, because your long leg already had the square root of 3 in it, it was easily divisible by the square root of 3, which gave you a nice whole number. And then, since you had a nice whole number, your hypotenuse would just be double that. On the next problem, we have a 30 degree and 90 degree, therefore we must have a 60 degree in here. We label what we do have. We have the 8 here, which is opposite of the 90 degree, therefore this is our hypotenuse. So we want to find our short first, so here's our 30 degrees. Go opposite the 30 degrees, that's our x. This is your short side, therefore the y would have to be our long side. Again, I'm just labeling the s and the l so I know which ones I have to find. So we always find the short side first, so we use the equation that we have the hypotenuse, so we want to use that equation. That the hypotenuse is equal to your short times 2, because it's a 30, 60, 90. Hypotenuse is 8. Our short is represented by x times 2. So if we divide by 2, x will equal to 4. 4 times 2 gives you 8. So now we want to find our long leg. That's what we still need to find. So our long leg is equal to short times the square root of 3 in a 30, 60, 90. So our long leg is represented by y. Our short leg is represented by x, which we just found as 4, times the square root of 3. 4 times the square root of 3 is 4 square root of 3. So y is equal to 4 square root of 3. And those are our values. So again, this one was also nice. If you have your hypotenuse, you can easily find your short leg by dividing by 2. It's when you're given your long leg that does not have the square root of 3 in it, where it'll be a little more complicated. So if you look at number 6, we have a 60 degree, 90, therefore we have to have a 30 degree. We label what we have. We have the 4 here, which is opposite the 60, so that means that this is your long leg. Opposite our 30 is our x, that's our short leg right here. And then we also have y as your hypotenuse. So in this case, we have the long leg, and it does not have a square root of 3 in it. Therefore, this will be a little more complicated. We'll most likely have to rationalize. So we focus on long leg. So our long leg is equal to your short times the square root of 3. Our long leg is 4. Our short is represented by x, and then we multiply by the square root of 3. So we do have to divide by the square root of 3 on this case. So we'll have x is equal to 4 divided by the square root of 3. But again, we would have to rationalize on here because the square root of 3 does not have anything to simplify with. So I'm going to write out rationalize. That's what we have to do on this problem. To rationalize this, we need to multiply the top and the bottom by the square root of 3. We get 4 times square root of 3 is 4 square root of 3. Over square root of 3 times square root of 3 is just 3. This cannot simplify any further. Therefore, x is equal to 4 square root of 3 over 3. We now have our short leg, so now we can find our hypotenuse. So our equation is hypotenuse is equal to your short leg times 2. The hypotenuse is represented by y. Our short leg is represented by x, which we just found as 4 square root of 3 over 3. Then we multiply it by 2. And again, this is really a 2 over a 1. So when we multiply this, we'll end up getting 4 square root of 3 times 2 is 8 square root of 3. And then 3 times 1 is 3. So over 3. It's when you're given your long leg and it does not have a square root of 3 is when it's going to be a little more complicated.